Okay, I know what you're thinking. J-Bone, you can't possibly have any predictions for the 2024 Formula One season already. 2024 literally only began 2 weeks ago, and we won't even see any of the 2024 cars until next month. Well, guess what, Dowdy McDowderson? You're wrong. J-Bone is chock full of predictions that are fueled by a combination of vibes, coffee, and completely zero hacking into teams' databases. I swear, I'm not a hacker that you know about. And the best part is, all of my predictions are 100% guaranteed to come true or your money back, which is why this content is free. As always, make sure to leave a like and then comment down below with your thoughts on how my 7 predictions are gonna pan out. Let's get into it. J-Bob! My first prediction, the 2024 Formula One season will once again be full of Red Bull and Max Verstappen dominance, and here's why. First, Red Bull have been focusing on developing their 2024 car for a while now, like for a disturbingly long amount of time, if we're being honest. Red Bull's head of performance engineering, Ben Waterhouse, recently uttered in an interview with Race Car Engineering the following horrifying statement: "The RB20 is a car that is at least 6 months old, and we are already starting to move our attention on the RB21, even if the season has not yet started." Yep, you heard that right. Red Bull were dominating 2023 so hard that they shifted their focus away from the RB19 and were already working on the RB20, which is this season's car, all the way back when McLaren were still a backmarker team because Zach Brown hadn't yet sold his soul to the devil after the Canadian Grand Prix in exchange for those god-tier midseason upgrades. Second, Max Verstappen is currently the greatest racing driver on planet Earth. This dude just had one of the greatest motorsport seasons of all time and broke pretty much every F1 record in the book in 2023, aside from weirdest T-pose. Shout out George Russell. And if the car Red Bull are going to put Max Verstappen in is a supposedly improved version of the RB19, I don't see any reason to believe that Max Verstappen will not be 2024's World Drivers' Champion. Now, the only silver lining here, if you aren't a Red Bull or Max Verstappen fan, is that it's hard to imagine Red Bull being any more dominant than they were in 2023, so at least there's that. But yeah, I do predict Max to win the World Drivers' Championship again, and Red Bull to win the World Constructors' Championship again. My second prediction for the 2024 F1 season, Fernando Alonso is going to retire from Formula One after this season, and here's my evidence. First, Fernando Alonso is no stranger to retiring from Formula One. He literally retired from Formula One back in 2018 when he was driving for McLaren before unretiring and joining Alpine 3 seasons later. Second, Alonso, who will turn 43 years old this year, is being very candid when it comes to his inevitable second retirement, recently saying the following to Automotor und Sport: "Next year, I'll see what 24 races feel like. If I have the feeling that I'm no longer able to perform that I expect from myself, I will be the first to raise my hand, but the moment has not yet come." There's no denying that Fernando Alonso is still a top driver after seeing what he was able to accomplish in 2023. However, there are 2 things that I think are going to lead to him retiring at the end of this F1 season. First is something he just mentioned, the insane 24-race 2024 F1 schedule. This season will be the most hectic, chaotic, tiring, long, exhausting, and repetitive season of Fernando Alonso's decades-long F1 career, and only time will tell if Alonso is down to keep living such an on-the-go lifestyle this late in his career. Second is something Alonso can't mention: Aston Martin's downward trajectory as the 2023 season went on. Despite their red-hot start to 2023 that saw Alonso score podiums in 5 of the season's first 6 races, Aston Martin, they weren't able to develop their car mid-season as well as their rivals, which saw them only score 1 podium in the season's final 9 races. If Aston Martin can't put together a solid challenger for 2024, and it becomes clear to Alonso that he won't be fighting for a championship in the next 2 seasons, which is what I think will happen, I think Alonso puts an end to his legendary career sometime this year. My third prediction, 2024 will be Checo Perez's last Formula One season driving for Red Bull, and here's why. Let's be honest, you half expected this past season to be Checo's last season at Red Bull because of how poor he performed relative to his teammate Max Verstappen. There was one stretch of 5 Grand Prix, from the Monaco Grand Prix through the British Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen won all 5 of those Grand Prix from pole position. Meanwhile, Checo didn't even make Q3 in a single one of those 5 qualifying sessions. At the end of the season, though, Despite scoring less than half as many points as Max Verstappen, Checo accomplished the absolute bare minimum he needed to in order for Red Bull to not cut him loose by securing P2 in the World Drivers' Championship, thus giving Red Bull their first ever 1-2 Drivers' Championship finish. Notice I didn't mention Checo helping Red Bull win the World Constructors' Championship, as they literally didn't even need his help there, as Max won Red Bull the Constructors all by himself by a wide margin even, which still blows my mind. That being said, Checo's Red Bull contract expires at the end of the 2024 season, and after the inconsistency we saw this past season, I don't see any realistic scenario in which Red Bull opt to retain his services for another year, even if he finishes the 2024 season P2 again, when they pretty much could sign any driver they want, and also when they have Daniel Ricciardo, Yuki Tsunoda, and Liam Lawson all in solid form at the moment and waiting in the wings. Red Bull gives you wings, pun not intended. Get started on your New Year's resolution to eat better with my sponsor, Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Factor's meals are ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes, which means more time for you. Factor's no prep, no mess meals free up time and money. Skip the grocery shopping, the endless cutting and chopping, the worrying about using ingredients before they go bad, and the expensive price of ordering takeout. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, you'll have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart your resolutions. One of my New Year's resolutions, like many people, is to eat healthier after a gluttonous holiday season. And Factor is pretty much designed to help you do just that with their healthy options like keto, protein plus, and calorie smart meals that are all absolutely delicious. Stress less over mealtimes in the new year while hitting your food goals with Factor Meals. Head to factormeals.com/fbone50 and use code fbone50 to get 50% off. That's code fbone50 at factormeals.com/fbone50 to get 50% off. My fourth prediction, 2024 will be the year that one of Formula One's wildest streaks finally comes to an end. Let me explain. I am, of course, referring to the Chinese Grand Prix's cancellation streak. The Chinese Grand Prix currently holds the unique record of being the Formula One race that has been canceled more times than any other, having been put on the calendar and then subsequently canceled the last 4 seasons in a row due to China's pandemic response. However, I predict that this 4-year cancellation streak is finally going to come to an end this year, and that the Chinese Grand Prix will be held as scheduled for the first time since 2019, when Lewis Hamilton won the race, Sebastian Vettel scored a podium for Ferrari, and Pierre Gasly set the fastest lap in a Red Bull. China's pandemic response has eased up considerably since last year's race was canceled. And not only that, but China will be eager to hold a Grand Prix in China, while the first ever Chinese Formula One driver, Zhou Guanyu, still has a seat in Formula One. So I am very confident that 2024 is the year that the Chinese Grand Prix is finally not canceled. As someone who was not yet following Formula One in 2019, I'm very excited to get to experience my first ever Chinese Grand Prix later this year, because I can 100% guarantee that it will not be canceled for the 5th year in a row. Probably. My fifth prediction, Lewis Hamilton is going to finally win a Formula One race in 2024 after going winless the past 2 seasons, and here's why. Mercedes driver Lewis Hamilton, who many believe is the Formula One GOAT, has had a bad last couple years by his own standards, starting with the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, where a certain race victory and record 8th World Drivers' Championship title were yanked away from Lewis at the last second by race director Michael Conspiracy. Lewis Hamilton has now gone 45 straight Grand Prix without a victory, which is by far the longest drought of his storied career. What's crazy is that despite the fact that Lewis Hamilton hasn't won a race since 2021, he still has a 31% career win percentage, which is absolutely bonkers. That just goes to show how absolutely dominant Lewis has been his whole career, minus right now, when he is less dominant than ever. But all hope is not lost, Lewis fans and or Max haters. Let's not forget that Mercedes finished P2 in the Constructors' Championship last season, despite the fact that they completely changed their car's concept in the middle of the season. I'm still not sure why they decided to initially stick with the failed 2022 Zero Pod concept for 2023, but that's neither here nor there, just like the side pods. Though I must note, I do now, after the holiday season, have a Zero Pod Mercedes diecast that I can look at anytime I need a nice pick-me-up and or need to remember that everyone makes mistakes. Can you believe that this thing was on sale on the F1 shop? I wonder why. If Mercedes can finish P2 in 2023 while using two completely different cars over the course of the season, just think about how good they will be when they actually finish a season with the same car they started with that also has side pods. Not to mention, Mercedes are taking Lewis Hamilton's input and implementing it into the W15 as they've already moved the cockpit further back per his request. Lewis Hamilton has come close to a win many times over the past 2 seasons in Mercedes cars that were less than ideal, so I am very excited to see what he will do in this upcoming new car that I think will mark a return to Mercedes's and Lewis's winning ways in 2024. Now, I saved the best for last because my final 2 predictions for the 2024 F1 season are my top to bottom predictions for the final 2024 World Drivers and Constructors Championship standings. Here's how I predict the 2024 Formula One World Constructors Championship is going to end up. In last place, I'm going with Filet Mignon Racing, aka Steak F1 Team, aka the team formerly known as Alfa Romeo. Despite finishing ahead of Haas last season, Alfa Romeo were easily the most irrelevant 2023 F1 team. After all, Haas's Nico Hülkenberg made more Q3s by himself than Alfa Romeo's 2 drivers did combined last season. Add in the fact that the Sirloin team is already looking ahead to when they become Audi in 2026, and I see no reason why they won't get jumped by Haas after Haas assumedly fixed their race pace issue, now that they now have a new engineering-focused team principal. Side note, farewell Gunther, we will all miss you. Nobody more than the Drive to Survive producers who will now have to scramble to make good content instead of just relying on you for it. If Gunther doesn't end up with another team, he will have no problem getting a job in commentating, so I'm certain Gunther will land on his feet, but man, we're gonna miss you. Jane? Jane, what do you mean fired? By the way, if you're a sad Haas fan right now, you gotta get my Pain F1 team merch. I got the hat, I got the shirt available now. Link in the description on the Formula Bone shop. Get it. Pain. In 9th place, Haas, who need to stop being quali merchants and figure out how to make their car function properly after lights out. In 8th place, Williams, who actually finished higher than that in P7 last year, but only because AlphaTauri had a chaos-filled year and a Nick DeVries problem. If we get the AlphaTauri that we saw at the end of 2023 and 2024, they should be able to best Williams, even though Albon and James Vowles are my own personal dream team. In 7th place, AlphaTauri, who have a very solid driver lineup and seem to be on a good development path so long as their new team principal, Laurent Mekies, doesn't bring any of those Ferrari strategy calls over to AlphaTauri with him. In 6th place, Alpine, who I think will definitely close the gap to P4 and P5 this season, but who still have some work to do to catch the top of the midfield. Alpine were on an absolute island at the end of the 2023 season between the midfield and the back markers, which is not the place you want to be. They should probably find a team principal sometime that might help. In 5th place, I'm going Aston Martin because their development stalled so hard last year that I just can't put them in the top 4. And also Lance Stroll is still one of the drivers, so I really can't put them in the top 4. In 4th place, give me McLaren, who I could easily see winning a race this season given their incredible car development last season, but who I think won't return to the top 3 for the first time since 2020 come the end of the year, just given how consistency has not always been the name of McLaren's game, and it takes consistency to finish in the top 3. Just ask Aston Martin. In 3rd place, I like Ferrari, who were the only non-Red Bull team to win a race last year, who figured things out by the end of the 2023 season, and who are rumored to have found some more pace this offseason, though literally the exact same rumor came out before last season and they did not find that pace, so whatever. In 2nd place, Mercedes, who I think are going to come out firing on all cylinders this year, pun not intended, now that they will be starting a season with side pods for the first time since 2021. It really is wild that they finished P2 in the Constructors last year while using 2 different cars. Crazy. And in 1st place, you already know, so yeah, Red Bull. And before I get into my World Drivers' Championship final standings prediction, in this day and age, anyone can sell products online, and if you're thinking about starting, you need to be using my partner Shopify. Shopify is the best all-in-one commerce platform capable of handling your business's complexity no matter how big you grow. Step up to Shopify and harness the best converting checkout and the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands like Ruggable and Allbirds. Why spend time trying to build an online store with someone besides Shopify when Shopify stores convert the best? You shouldn't be. One thing I love about Shopify is that it integrates with YouTube, which is something I'm actually in the process of setting up so I can sell Formula Bone merch on here. Stop leaving sales on the table, switch your business to Shopify, and discover why millions trust Shopify as their all-in-one commerce platform to build, grow, and run their business. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/fbone, all lowercase. That's 1 month for just $1 at shopify.com/fbone, shopify.com/fbone. Finally, here's how I predict the 2024 Formula One World Drivers' Championship is going to end up. In last place of the season's 20 drivers, I'm going with American hero Logan Sargent, who I think will do better than he did in 2023, but will still pull up the rear. USA! USA! P19, Zhou Guanyu, because I think the Tenderloin team are going to put together an underwhelming challenger. P18, give me Kevin Magnussen, whose return to F1 has been pretty bad, not including his miracle 2022 Brazil pole position. P17, Valtteri Bottas, same reason as Joe. P16, Nico Hülkenberg, the quali merchant himself, who hopefully Haas can give a better car to this season. P15, Alex Albon, who is a beast and who I believe will once again single-handedly propel Williams out of the bottom two. P14, Yuki Tsunoda, and P13, Daniel Ricciardo, which I know may be a controversial order to put these two in, but I just think Daniel's experience will allow him to have a more consistent season than Yuki, who is known for being a more aggressive driver, at least at this point in their careers. P12, Pierre Gasly, and P11, Esteban Ocon, which again, may be a controversial order, but I like Ocon's Alpine experience, and I find him to be a more complete driver at the moment. After all, Ocon only finished 4 points behind Gasly in 2023, despite having 4 more DNFs than the gas man. P10, Daddy's little racer, aka Lance Stroll, who I think squeaks into the top 10 yet again by the interesting looking hair on his chin. P9, Oscar Piastri, aka Oscar Piastri, who I think will have a solid sophomore season after having one of the great rookie seasons in recent memory. P8, Fernando Alonso, who unfortunately I think will drop down the standings in 2024 on account of other teams catching up to and surpassing Aston Martin. P7, Lando Norris, though I would not be surprised if he finished in the top 5, given how McLaren are literally impossible to predict after what they did last season. P6, Carlos Sainz, who I still rate below Leclerc, though he definitely looked superior to Leclerc at a few points this past season. P5, George Russell, who needs a nice recovery year after finishing P8 despite driving the P2 Constructor's car. P4, Charles Leclerc, who will almost certainly get a few pole positions in 2024 from which Max Verstappen will win. P3, Checo Perez, who I think will close out his career at Red Bull by once again underperforming relative to Max, this time not even finishing P2. P2, Lewis Hamilton. I am extremely excited to watch Lewis this season as I think this will be a big year for him and Mercedes after a tough last couple seasons. And P1, Max Verstappen, yada yada, the greatest, yeah. Now, I want to hear your predictions for the 2024 F1 season. Let me see them in the comments. Like right now, go comment, I command you. And before I let you go, if you want to help keep Formula Bone around, I need to tell you about my new and improved YouTube channel membership tiers. I recently moved my Patreon fully over to YouTube channel memberships because that allows me to give you all the best bang for your buck with a bunch of awesome YouTube perks in exchange for your support. For less than $5 a month, you can get your YouTube username on screen at the end of every video, just like these people's names are right now. You can also get loyalty badges next to your name in YouTube comments and live chat, custom Formula Bone emojis that you can use in comments and live chat that look like this, priority reply to your YouTube comments from me, J-Bone, and more. And if you really want to support Formula Bone, less than $15 a month will get your name shouted out at the end of every one of my YouTube videos, just like how I shout out J-Bone. A link to learn more about supporting Formula Bone by becoming a YouTube channel member is in the description of this video. Thank you for your consideration, and until next time, folks, J-Bone! J-Bone!